MP Minerals, a stock that soared 55% today on a deal with the DoD, Department of Defense. That is something that you guys have to see, and we've got it for you only here on The Rebel's Edge. Bang! Bang.
Bang. By the way, yep, there it is. I don't know who these characters were that were sitting in for us the other day, John. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Garbaz and Justin. You know, you got Justin Timberlake, and then you've got a guy that's about a foot taller than Justin.
Shoot, I got to tell you, the guy who's taller than Justin's got me by about 4 inches, too. That guy's a freaking horse.
Yeah. They are great, and they both do a tremendous job, folks.
Yep.
So anytime they're on the show, it's going to be a good show, I guarantee. Oh, and I got a call I've got to not take, Pete.
It's got to be one. It's one of those guys. They're probably wondering why we're
Why were they talking about me? Well, that's Pete Najarian, folks. I'm Jon Najarian. We do the show 4 days a week at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Let's dive right into Macro Minute, Pete. Initial jobless claims in the United States down to 227,000 for July. That's even lower than the anticipated increases in jobless claims. But jobless claims being down, folks, is a good thing. In other words, people aren't out there saying, I'm out of a job. This is a good thing. And this marks 4 consecutive weeks of declines in jobless claims.
Not only that, John, but then, the president continues on with the tariffs. You know, we're back talking about the tariffs on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. The market just digests this so rapidly. It's absolutely unbelievable. And I think today's another great example of that. I mean, I think a lot of people were looking at it going, well, wait a minute. They're slapping tariffs on these guys and these guys and these guys and these guys. And that's all true. But the markets aren't reacting the same way that they were, John, back in April. And I think that it shows you that the markets that we have right now are able to digest an incredible amount. Now, there might become a point where they can't, but for right now, they are.
Yeah, well, the Dow Jones Industrials, 260 points higher, Pete. Mm-hmm. The NASDAQ, pretty flat right now. The S&P 500, 15 points higher. Yeah, all of those are telling you that people like the fact that jobless claims are down, at least to me, Pete, and don't care as much about the tariff talk and what may or may not happen on August 1st.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive in, Pete, to fantastic futures. I'm going to say that the temper tantrum that people throw over tariffs, I'm going to lead you right into the VIX, because are you seeing people scared about what might happen August 1st, Pete? Or are you seeing people very calm about what might happen August 1st?
They're absolutely spooked, John. I mean, that's why we're trading underneath, 16 now. I mean, it's absolutely incredible, actually. No, people are not freaked out right now. So far, like I said earlier, it's been digested and it's been incredible. And we've had moves in the market that have been pretty solid, most of them to the upside for the most part. Obviously yesterday, NASDAQ, brand new highs. So the markets are absolutely moving, John. In the last couple of weeks, we have gone 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we were at a 22 VIX. People have already forgotten that. But 2 weeks ago, 22 VIX, we've been dropping. And now here we are. We're trading in the 15s, the upper 15s, but nonetheless underneath 16. I think that says a lot about where we have progressed in the reaction in the markets, at least so far, to what's going on in the big picture with the tariffs and so forth.
Agreed. Of course, I agree. And folks, before we get to stocks, I want to remind you that we do have a 10X Rebel Boot Camp. It's going to be at the 10X Studios in beautiful Aventura, Florida, September 19th and 20th. All you've got to do is click on that QR code on the screen there, and you can join us. You get ready to trade, to learn, to level up, all of that live for the 19th and 20th. The 19th, of course, is a Friday. 20th is Saturday. It's going to be a fabulous time. Anybody that's attended these boot camps will tell you that you will come away smarter and with a better understanding of how we trade and perhaps how you can use those same strategies for yourself, right, Pete?
Absolutely. And it's why we're always smiling, right? I mean, the idea is that we see things that are going on in the market that other people aren't seeing. They don't have the same kind of technology that we've created. And obviously the educational piece of it as well, John, understanding that it's not about stocks all the time. Sure, stocks can be a part of your, how you invest, but also how about the options world? And we say it all the time. It's not an option, but that is true. And that's something that people need to understand it. They need to be educated. If they can do that. And by the way, tickets are selling pretty quick. That's not a bunch of BS. That's actual fact. We have a select number left. So for those who want to be a participant in this whole thing, I think that they better make their move pretty soon, John, because it is starting to get filled up and it will be full in the not too distant future.
Yeah, this isn't an 800-person event, folks.
No.
This is limited to 120 people. I can't emphasize it enough that Pete is exactly right. If you don't sign up in the next couple of weeks, you will not be able to attend. We cannot add seats. This is the classroom that Grant Cardone uses for his in-house education and so forth. It's state-of-the-art. We've got state-of-the-art sound, state-of-the-art big screens all over the place, and limited to 120 people. It's over 60% sold out already. So make sure that you put it on your calendar and don't think about it too long. Sign up now. Click that QR code. You can talk to Melanie, or you can talk to Cole or one of the salespeople about getting you in for September 19th and 20th.
Yep.
All right. Hey, Pete, MP Minerals. Now, this is a rare earth miner. What are rare earths used for? You guys know they're used for batteries like Tesla, like BYD, like Lucid, like Rivian. All of those require lithium, cobalt, nickel, and all this stuff. Many of those are rare earth elements. Well, this is a rare earth play in the United States. Stock market basically loves this deal because the DoD signed a deal for a public-private partnership in the multi-billions of dollars. And the unusual activity that we had in this one, Pete, 30 cents was what they were paying for the July 25 calls. It went to 47, maybe even higher today. So what does that mean? The right to buy it at 25 is worth $22 at 47. So you went from 30 cents to $22. That means, for those of you who need the help, a $1,000 position made $73,000. That, my friends, is why it's not an option to just trade stock.
It's about leverage, man, and the opportunity that's there, and seeing that optional paper that you're talking about there when they come in. By the way, stock up 50%. That doesn't happen very often, but it's happening today. And the fact that it hit 52-week highs at 48 bucks, John, was the high. There's plenty of shorts in there too. I don't think those shorts are liking what they're seeing today up. That's about 18 to 20% short interest in this stock too. So a lot of folks having to cover, getting that chase that happens, that squeeze that happens. And that's a big piece of this thing as well, John. They're talking about the fact that where do they actually get this? Well, it's the east side of LA. That's one, but they're also going all the way over to Fort Worth. So there's a lot going on in this, and I love this deal. I think it makes a heck of a lot of sense. Do we always want to have to be worried about somebody in a foreign country that has all the control, China or anybody else? I mean, it makes a lot of sense that we would start to explore this in a much bigger way, in a much bigger fashion, and that's exactly what we're doing. It just shows you the Defense Department really, they're in their A game right now, John, because this is important, and it's something that I think will be huge into the future.
Yeah, and I left that off, Pete. The defense side of this, I talked about the batteries, and yes, the Defense Department does use some of that technology in what they do. But for missiles and guidance systems and all the rest, those rare earths are invaluable, meaning that you can't replace them, at least not yet. So if you want state-of-the-art missiles and defense systems and so forth, you need these rare earths. That's why they're doing a deal like this. I'm on the advisory board of M2I, so I can tell you guys about that more later. But that's another one of these rare earth plays. Full disclosure, They also pay me. M2I does, but man, this is a big deal today, Pete, this MP Minerals. And then we got another big deal because Delta came out, Pete, and they jumped on better than expected second quarter earnings. They restated their profit outlook. They basically said, hey, the customer pullback is cutting back, meaning customers are coming back. And we had unusual in this one as well. Fabulous to see this one up 12 or 13%, Pete. And we had three different big hits for this one. The July 11th expiring, so that's tomorrow, July 11th. They were buying the 52 calls with the stock at 49. Well, those calls went at least $5 in the money at 57, the right to buy it at 52 when it's trading 57, $5. What did they pay for it? $1. So you want some returns like that, you got to follow this link that Jared's putting up there, marketrebellion.com/get started. And you could be trading the same trades I'm trading and Pete's trading.
Yeah, I mean, it's the stamp. It shows you exactly when this was put up, and people can look at that, and then they can see where is it now. And this is exactly what we're seeing here, John. I mean, when you look at these numbers that Delta was able to put up, very, very impressive. It still has a PE of about 8 or 9. They got great earnings strength. They're doing a lot of things right. The stock is not at 52-week highs, but it's at least in the direction of getting closer to that. But nonetheless, when they talk about their fall booking, all the different things that they brought up, and you brought up some of those specifically, John, but their outlook coming back for 2025, it's really interesting. It's very powerful. And it's not just Delta, by the way. If you look at JETS, which is the ETF for all these transportational stocks, is pretty daggone interesting. That's made a heck of a move as well. And we had option activity in that. So there's a lot of different ways to approach this whole thing. But certainly this particular earnings that was delivered by Delta, one of the better that I've seen in a long time for one of these types of folks, John. It's not always that way, but right now it's really looking good. And by the way, when you talk about what are some of the biggest costs that they have for these jets, well, maybe it's fuel. And if you look at the prices of fuel right now, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, we're at 4-year lows for gasoline and for some of the jet fuels that these big airlines use on a daily basis, hundreds of thousands of gallons or hundreds of thousands of pounds. They usually measure it in pounds for airlines. But these earnings were so strong, Pete, they drove United 13% higher. And this stock at the beginning of April, Pete, was $54. Today, explodes to the upside in terms of, that's United was 54. Now it's $90 a share. Just a phenomenal move. All right, let's hit Rare. Now, this is not good news because Rare was working with Mero Biopharma, and this stock hits a new 52-week low, Pete, not because they failed in a trial, but because they expected maybe that they'd be able to just stop the trial and say, let's just go for approval. But they didn't get quite the level they needed to get. So instead, they have to say, well, we're going to keep going with the trial. That means a burn instead of getting cash in the door. And that's why shares are down 28 to 30% today, Pete.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. This is an interesting treatment that they're working on in a lot of these different areas that people go. It has to do with, how many people are really suffering from this and that and everything. And it's great that they can focus on wherever they want to. And the treatment for this brittle bone disease is pretty daggone important. But as you just mentioned, it's not that they missed, but they didn't really knock it out of the park either, John. And the mid stage, they had 67% decrease in fractures. That part of it was great. But, we talk about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. This phase 3 just wasn't quite what people were looking for. And that's the problem, because they need a home run. They didn't really get the home run. And clearly by the reaction, when we're seeing the stock hit 52-week lows, not the highs, but the lows, that tells the entire story.
Yeah. Well, we got one more, Pete.
Yep.
Autodesk, of course, is the name that many of you are familiar with. They do various publishing stuff. They're also just one of the high flyers at times, but today not so much, because PTC pulling back substantially. They soared on the possibility of an Autodesk bid. and it was going to be mainly cash and stock, I guess. But after surging double digits yesterday, gave an awful lot of that back today, Pete, as Autodesk decides whether or not they're in or they're out. And that's why both stocks are getting hit today.
And the only reason that I can see, John, that might be apprehensive of why maybe it could be off. We don't know if it's on or off, but if it's off, could be just looking at the financials of PTC. You know, they got some free cash flow. That part's great. But when you look at the debt versus cash, John, at 1.35 billion, that's a pretty healthy number. And that's actually an unhealthy number, but that's a big number at 1.35 billion. So I wonder if they're just kind of trying to figure out exactly how they would want to do this if they were going to do this. And we don't know the answer right now, but it certainly is interesting to see. It had a big day on Wednesday. I mean, Wednesday the stock was ripping to the upside. And now, as you point out, giving some of that back today. We'll see if this can come through. I don't think it's a done deal that the deal is over. They just might need to have a little bit negotiation, John, into it a little bit more. Maybe some numbers come down a little bit on this whole thing. But for right now, it's not looking good. Now, that doesn't mean it's over. I mean, there's the possibility that there's something still there. But, it's going to be interesting. And that's where I think the options really does take place. If this thing pulled back enough, might be something that I might get interested in a little bit, John, because if they knocked on the door once, they might come knocking again.
I agree. It happens all the time, Pete.
Yep.
Not every time, but frequently, the rumors of somebody making a move all of a sudden are followed up with a real move, and maybe even a different ratio of cash to stock and so forth.
Yep.
All right. Well, Pete, time for your Red Zone Sports. What do you got for us today?
Well, I'll tell you what, John, I'm looking around the NFL. We always talk about this. This is why you and I had started this show, because we're two guys who are former linebackers in the NFL and college, of course, and all the rest of it. But it's got us the exposure level to things in professional sports. And so we've had the sports side. We've had the financial side. I've done it for the last 30 years. You're the last 35 years or whatever it is. And it's interesting. Well, you piece all that together. How about Eli Manning? So Eli Manning was sitting there sort of sniffing around a little bit with the New York Giants, right? And he legitimately, he wasn't just, kicking tires. I think legitimately wanted to be a part of an offering of the Giants owners so people could have an opportunity. And Eli Manning was one of those people. Well, he decided, hey, 1% of 10 billion is still a hell of a lot of money. So he basically decided, even though he's got 2 Super Bowl MVPs with the Giants and a retired number 10 with the Giants, he decided to walk away. And presently, John, depending on where you look, everybody's got a different number at what these different what the levels are. Right now, CNBC has it at 7.85 billion, and Forbes has them at 7.3 billion. So somewhere getting close to, maybe call it the 8 billion number. And who knows if they're that accurate or not. But here's who are the top 5, John. And see if, I think the fun thing for us would be, and we could talk about this for a second with the Raiders because they're at number 5. But a few years ago, you and I kind of kicked the tires, and somebody actually offered us something. But so right now you've got Dallas, 11 billion. The Rams, 8 billion. You've got Patriots at 8 billion. You've got the Giants at 7.85 billion and the Raiders at 7.8 billion. First of all, I'm going to say this. I think the Raiders might be right up there with the Cowboys. I think they're wrong when they think that the Raiders are that far off of the Cowboys. And I say that because how about that stadium? Pretty unbelievable stadium. All these things kind of are a piece of this whole thing, right? So those are your top 5. I find it really interesting. The Raiders, you and I kind of kicked some tires. They had certain percentages that they were willing to go with. And we probably should have done everything we could to do it, John, only from the standpoint that they just keep going up and the ratings keep going up. I mean, and we're going to talk about something else in just a minute after this about ratings going down. We've talked about it in the NBA. Major League Baseball has their own struggles that they've had, but they've changed. They did something to try to help it by shortening the games and the pitch count and all the rest of those kinds of things. So what do you think, John, about this whole thing? And by the way, do you think I'm nuts that I think that the Raiders might be as wealthy or at least valued as much as somebody like the Dallas, who's considered number 1?
No, I don't think you're crazy about that at all, Pete. I think the Raiders should be a lot closer to the Cowboys, certainly within $1 billion.
Yeah.
And I know these are big numbers, folks, and partially they're big numbers because now private equity can get involved too. They can't own a controlling stake, at least according to the present rules, but they can own a significant stake, and then they have to sell it within, I think, Pete, the thing is within 5 or 6 years, they have to turn that stake over again. I'm not sure what the NFL's thinking with that, but the fact that this is the most exclusive club in the world right now. There are only 32 of these teams. There are 100 senators, 2 from every state. So that used to be one of the most exclusive clubs, Pete. Now this is the most exclusive club because look at these valuations, just crazy. And I think that's why Eli pulled back because, it was probably in his mind somewhere maybe around 5 to 7 billion. And all of a sudden they put up a 7.8 and then they hear the Cowboys are 11 and they figure, well, maybe we're 10 or whatever. And he's thinking, my God, that's all of the money I've got if I'm Eli Manning and I want to buy a few percent. Makes Tom Brady's purchase last year look pretty good, Pete, with your Raiders, because I think he went in, I want to say 200 or 300 million deep, Pete, into the Raiders. And that stake, it hasn't doubled yet, but it's certainly worth a lot more than when he put the money in last year.
He's the GOAT, not just as a quarterback, but he's a GOAT in the investing world too, John. I mean, they can't stop this guy. Brady is an absolute beast out there.
Yes,
all right. How about a little tennis, John? So here's what I had for you, and sometimes people get angry because I get pretty aggressive about some of these things, but they got a declining mainstream appeal in tennis. So I'll throw it out this way. Name me 2 male tennis players presently that might even be at Wimbledon and all. It's almost impossible, right? I mean, there's one guy out there, Djokovic, right? I mean, he's the one guy that I think I could name. Other than that, I can't do it. And I don't think I'm somebody, off the reservation or anything like that. I mean, I look at it and it's not the same sport that it once was. And if you look, and this is where the reality of this comes together here. Australians Open was down 11% with their ratings. The youth participation's down 18%. Viewership is dropping like a rock. And there's no real standout people right now. And maybe it's the personalities. I don't know, John, but how does tennis get it back? Do you have any thoughts? I mean, I think baseball did a great job. They finally pulled their head out and said, yeah, these pitchers, they can't sit there fiddling around and the batter fiddling around and it takes 3.5 hours to play a baseball game. They did a great job when they did this thing. Everybody was pushing back. Nobody's even talking about it anymore. And I think the reality is you can play a baseball game in 2.5 hours. Maybe it's 3, but it's under 3 most likely. So what does tennis got to do? I can't figure it out. They just need more personalities, but how do you get that? I don't know.
Well, I'm going to throw something out to you, Pete, that probably won't surprise you, and I'm sure you've thought about it, but pickleball. So an awful lot of tennis courts are being converted to pickleball courts. And why? Well, because almost anybody can play it. Now, not just anybody plays at the level of the pros, the same thing that's true about tennis. But the fact that, and by the way, orthopedic surgeons love it, Pete, because people are stopping and starting and blowing out their knees and ankles and probably Achilles all over the place. But I'll point out that pickleball championships, they draw, like for instance, 2023, I looked it up, Pete, they drew 2.6 million TV viewers across ESPN, Tennis Channel, and Pickleball TV. Never even heard of it, but they had that, Pete. Now you go ahead to 2025, and they've got a pro tour that includes 14 nationally televised events, okay? 40 hours of broadcasts. It's true that people really do like watching something like that pickleball. 50 million American adults are playing pickleball right now. It is projected to be a $4 billion business, not in 2030, Pete, next year. year. So when you look at something like tennis, which I love, and I love Djokovic, and the guy is just a beast. He is the GOAT. Federer was great. Rafi Nadal was great. You know, these are all fantastic players, and I love watching them play. Pretty soon, those kind of names might be, you know, the sorts of people that are involved in pickleball. Because I know Andre Agassi, and we might get to work with him, Pete. You and I might get to work with him through Moneta Advisors, because he has a pro pickleball league that he has started up and so forth. If these guys draw on TV these kinds of numbers, that could be a huge deal. So why are they not watching tennis? Because nobody can play like Djokovic or Nadal or Skinner or any of these guys. You know, almost nobody can play like the top 100 players in the world. But pickleball, slightly different. Even though you might not be able to stay on the court with one of them, you can still play a pretty high level of pickleball because it's a wiffle ball. It's not that same tennis ball. It's not going 140 miles an hour and all the rest. So we'll see. I'm not saying tennis is dead. I'm just saying there's an alternative, Pete.
I got an answer for you on it as well. And I was given this thought years ago. I thought about this, and it just came back to me as you were talking about pickleball, John. I have said forever with tennis this. They need to go back to, I know this sounds stupid as all get up. They need to go back to a wood racket and a smaller head so that they actually have to work harder on the court and the ball's not moving quite as fast. It might bring people back into it. And I think the problem is, I was just watching the other day. I was flying home. I was on the plane and I'm looking at watching these guys play, right? The guy's serving at 130 miles an hour. It's not exciting. He's acing this guy, you know, whoever the person was that I was watching. I'm watching this guy going, well, how in hell is anybody going to ever return that? If he has a wooden racket with a smaller head, it's kind of like the baseball thing, right? I mean, what did they have to do? It wasn't that big a deal. Speed the damn thing up. Make the pitchers throw and make the batters stop scratching certain parts of their body. I mean, that's what really would get people back into it, I think, would be, hey, look, but they've got the greatest stuff ever. These rackets are as big as, you know, like you're going into the ocean and you're trying to, you know, take out a dolphin or something like that. So it's taken away, I think, what people really enjoy is the athleticism of it. It's really changed because these guys, they're great, and every one of them's always been a great athlete, all the way going back to McEnroe and all those kind of characters, right? But they had the smaller head on their racket, and I think that would make a big difference too.
I think you're right. We'll see if tennis makes any of those changes, Pete. And meanwhile, pickleball's just exploding everywhere, and that popping sound you hear. That's both pickleball and probably, again, Achilles tendons, knees, hamstrings, all of that stuff. So, folks, make sure that you join us on Monday because we do not do the Rebel's Edge on Fridays. Pete will be back on Monday. And that is if I can get Pete to stop using the jet so much so that I can actually use it. Anyway, we'll see you at 1 p.m. Eastern time on Monday. Till then, folks, bang.